The space station floated like a broken jewel in the cold void. Its halls were filled with life, laughter, and music, yet there was one place where silence always lived. In the corner shadows of the Grand Hall, an alien girl stood alone, her back pressed against the cold steel wall. She was small, fragile-looking, her eyes bright with unspoken dreams, but no one looked at her. No one called her name. Her people had abandoned her long ago. They had left her to survive on scraps, whispering that she was cursed, that her birth brought shame. Even now, when great gatherings filled the hall, she was invisible. Crowds spun and danced in the golden lights. Human soldiers laughed with alien officers. Music thundered, but she stood there, silent, unseen. She wanted to dance. She always wanted to. Since childhood, she had watched others, memorizing the steps, the twirls, the way partners moved as if they trusted each other with their hearts. But her people never gave her a chance. They told her she was nothing, and slowly, she began to believe them. Tonight was worse. The music echoed like thunder in her chest. Alien nobles twirled, humans clapped, and the floor glittered with spinning boots and polished shoes. Yet her hands were empty, her feet heavy, her heart breaking with every note. She pressed herself deeper into the shadows, her thin cloak drawn close. Maybe, if she made herself small enough, the pain would pass. But then, she noticed him. A human soldier stood at the edge of the crowd, tall, his uniform clean but simple. He was not dancing either, just watching, his sharp eyes scanning the room. And then, his gaze landed on her. Her chest froze, panic rising. No one ever noticed her, but now someone did. For a long moment, their eyes locked. She expected mockery, or worse, pity, but his look carried none of those. Instead, there was curiosity, warmth, and something strange like recognition. He moved, slowly, as if careful not to scare her. Through the crowd he walked, step by step, each movement deliberate. The alien girl trembled, her instinct screaming to vanish, to run into the air ducts like she had done all her life. But her feet would not move. For the first time, she felt rooted, waiting. The music swelled, drums pounding, strings singing. Then the human stopped in front of her. He extended his hand, palm open. His voice was calm, low, carrying across the music. "Would you dance with me?" The girl gasped. Her chest tightened as whispers rippled across the hall. Aliens turned their heads. Humans froze mid-step. The music seemed to stutter, though it never stopped. No one had ever asked her that, not once. Her people had abandoned her. The humans ignored her. And now this man broke all the rules with one gesture. Her hand shook, her lips parted, but no words came. Could she accept? Could she trust? Or was this a cruel trick, another way to remind her that she was unwanted? She stared at his hand, strong yet gentle, waiting without pressure. The hall grew tense, silence wrapping itself around the notes of the music. The choice was hers, and for the first time in her life, someone waited for her answer. The alien girl's heart pounded like a war drum. She felt every eye on her, every whisper slicing through the air. But she also felt something else, a spark, a light she thought had died years ago. Hope. Her thin fingers lifted, trembling. Slowly, she placed her hand in his. Gasps erupted from the crowd. Shock echoed through the chamber. But in that moment, she didn't care. Her hand was held, firm and steady, by someone who saw her not as a curse, not as a shadow, but as a partner. The human smiled, only slightly, but it was real. He stepped back, gently guiding her forward. The lights of the hall spilled over her face, revealing her to all. Her cloak slipped slightly, showing the fragile lines of her form. She wanted to hide, but his steady hand kept her anchored. The music roared. The floor opened before them, and for the first time in her life, she took a step toward the dance. The hall was filled with silence, yet the music played on. Every alien eye, every human gaze, was locked on the strange pair standing at the edge of the dance floor. A cursed outcast, forgotten by her people, and a human soldier who dared to see her. It was not supposed to happen. Not in this place, not in this time. The human's hand remained steady, holding hers, as if nothing in the galaxy could break the moment. For the girl, the touch felt like fire and lightning all at once. She wanted to pull back, to vanish into the shadows where she had always hidden, but his grip was not forceful. It was inviting. It was patient. Her breath trembled, her thin chest rising and falling as the crowd whispered. "Is he mad?" hissed one alien officer. "She is the abandoned one, the cursed," another muttered. A human sergeant scowled, shaking his head, yet he did not dare step forward. The tension grew, thick like smoke. Then the human soldier moved. He led her with careful steps onto the floor, guiding her into the circle of light. The crowd parted, unwilling, shocked, outraged. It was as if he had dragged a ghost into the land of the living. But to him, she was no ghost, no curse, only someone who had been waiting too long for a chance. The music swelled, a deep drum beating, the strings twisting through the air. He placed his other hand gently at her back, not low, not controlling, only steadying her trembling form. Her heart hammered. Her mind screamed that this was wrong, that the eyes of her people would burn her alive. And yet, her feet moved, slowly, awkwardly, then with rhythm. She was dancing. The gasps around them turned sharper. Some aliens sneered, their faces twisted with disgust. Humans looked uneasy, caught between loyalty to their comrade and fear of insulting the alien hosts. Yet the soldier never faltered. His gaze never left her, his movements confident, unshaken. She whispered, her voice small, Why would you do this?" His answer was simple, spoken softly. "Because no one should be left alone." Her eyes widened, a tear almost spilling. No one had ever spoken such words to her, not once in her life. The dance grew bolder. At first, her steps were clumsy, her body stiff, but as his hand guided her, she found balance. The rhythm seeped into her bones. For a moment, just a fleeting moment, she felt alive, seen, worthy. Every movement was a rebellion against the chains of rejection she had worn for years. The hall could not contain its fury. An elder alien slammed his staff against the floor, the crack echoing like thunder. "This is forbidden," he barked, his voice shaking the walls. She was cast out by the council. She has no name, no right. But the human did not release her. He simply spun her gently, drawing another gasp from the audience as her cloak flared, revealing her face, her form, her truth. The alien girl trembled, fear crashing over her. The council would punish her. They always punished her for existing. She tried to pull away, whispering, "You should not. They will come for you." But the soldier only tightened his grip slightly, steady and calm. "Then let them come," he said, his eyes firm, his jaw set like stone. That defiance spread like wildfire. The crowd shifted uneasily. Some whispered of prophecy, of old warnings that an abandoned one would rise again when a stranger reached out. Others muttered of disgrace, of war between species if this insult continued. But still they danced. Her steps grew lighter, her movements more graceful. Though she had never been taught, her body remembered the rhythm she had watched all her life. With every spin, with every turn, she felt the chains fall away. The human smiled faintly, as if proud, as if he knew she had always been capable of this. By the time the song reached its peak, the hall was no longer a hall of celebration. It was a battlefield of silence and shock. The music thundered, but no one clapped, no one cheered. Only two figures moved in defiance. An outcast girl, abandoned by all, and a human soldier who refused to let her stand alone. When the music ended, the silence was heavier than before. The soldier bowed slightly to her, releasing her hand only after she was steady. For a heartbeat, she thought it was over, that maybe the danger had passed. But then the alien elder raised his staff again, his eyes burning with fury. "You have broken our law," he declared. "And for this, there will be consequences." The human soldier stood tall, unshaken, his body shielding her from the eyes of judgment. And for the first time in her life, the girl did not feel small. She did not feel invisible. For the first time, she felt like she belonged, even if the galaxy itself would try to tear that feeling away. The elder's words cracked through the hall like thunder. Every eye turned toward the human soldier and the fragile alien girl at his side. Guards stepped forward, their boots echoing against the polished floor, weapons glinting under the golden lights. The music had ended, but the echo of their dance still lingered, heavy in the air. The girl's hands shook, her heart pounded like a drum of war. She whispered, barely able to breathe, "You should let go, they will destroy you." But the human did not move, his body was steady, his gaze fixed on the elder with the staff. "I will not let go," he said calmly. "Not when she's been cast aside for nothing." The crowd erupted. Alien nobles sneered and shouted, "She is cursed, she was abandoned by the council, for a reason." Humans muttered uneasily, torn between fear of breaking treaties and loyalty to one of their own. The tension in the hall felt like a wire pulled to the breaking point, one spark away from snapping. The elder lifted his staff, its tip glowing faintly with ancient power. "She has no right to stand among us," he declared, his voice booming. "And you, human, have broken our sacred law." Whispers filled the chamber. Stories of an old prophecy began to resurface. It was said that one day, an abandoned child, marked by shame, would return hand in hand with a stranger, and their union would change the stars. The girl's eyes widened as she heard those whispers. She had always thought the prophecy was just a cruel tale used to justify her exile. But now, the fearful looks in the elder's eyes told her it was something more. Maybe the real reason she had been left to die was not because she was weak, but because they feared what she could become. The human sensed the shift. He leaned closer to her, his voice low but firm. "They fear you, not because you are cursed, but because you are strong." Her lips parted, trembling. "I am nothing. I have always been nothing." His hand tightened on hers. "Not to me," he answered. The guard closed in. The crowd began to chant, some calling for punishment, others calling for exile. But the girl, for the first time, stood tall beside the human. Her shoulders straightened, her eyes shining with defiance. She realized that as long as he held her hand, she was not invisible, she was not forgotten. Then the unthinkable happened. The human soldier stepped forward, dragging her with him, and with deliberate boldness, he spun her again. Gasps exploded through the crowd. He was dancing again, even with blades pointed at him, even with elders glaring. Every step he took was a strike against the prejudice that bound her. The girl followed, her feet shaky but determined. Together they moved, not gracefully this time, but fiercely, like warriors disguised as dancers. The crowd was silent now, watching with wide eyes. They had expected the human to kneel, to beg, to apologize. Instead, he was using the forbidden act itself as defiance. The girl's heart soared with each step. Her fear did not vanish, but it burned into something stronger, courage. She lifted her head high, letting the lights reveal her fully. No cloak, no shadows, no shame. For the first time, she wanted them to see her. The elders could not bear it. One shouted, "Stop this, or face exile from our world." But the soldier only smirked, guiding her into another turn. "I would rather be exiled than let her stand alone," he said, his voice carrying across the hall. The words struck like a blade, silencing even the harshest critics. The music players, uncertain, looked to the council. But something in the air had changed. One by one, without command, the musicians raised their instruments again. Soft notes spilled into the silence, hesitant but growing. The dance began anew, unplanned, unstoppable. And this time, others joined. First, a human soldier stepped onto the floor, taking the hand of an alien mechanic long ignored. Then another and another. In moments, the dance floor was filled with pairs who had once been divided by bloodlines and fear. The act of rebellion had spread, sparked by a single offered hand. The elder slammed his staff again, furious. But no one stopped. The girl spun under the human's steady hand, her eyes shining with tears and fire. She was no longer the abandoned one. She was the beginning of something greater, something dangerous to those who clung to old laws. When the song reached its final note, the hall erupted not in silence, but in cheers, laughter, and defiant clapping. The elders were furious, their faces pale with fear. They had lost control, even if only for a night. The prophecy was no longer just a whisper, it was alive, breathing, dancing. The human soldier bowed to her, his eyes soft. "You are not nothing," he said, as if sealing a promise. And for the first time in her life, she believed it. The dance had ended, but its echoes refused to die. The grand hall still buzzed with whispers, cheers, and defiant laughter. Yet beneath it all lurked a storm. The alien council stood at the edge of the floor, their cloaks heavy, their faces hard, their staffs glowing faintly with old power. They had watched too much, tolerated too much, and now they would act. The elder with the silver staff stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. "Enough," he thundered. "This insult will not stand." The hall fell silent. The music halted, and the air turned sharp. Every dancer froze, the joy replaced with dread. The human soldier stood tall, still holding the alien girl's hand. His eyes burned with quiet fire, refusing to bow. The girl felt her knees weaken, her heart racing as the elder's gaze pinned her like a blade. She knew this look, the same look her people had given her before they cast her out. She was abandoned for a reason. The elder spat. "She carries a mark that must never be allowed to rise. And you, human, have awakened it." Gasps echoed through the hall, whispers rising again. The girl clutched her cloak tighter, as if hiding the invisible scar of her past. The human turned his head slightly toward her, his voice low and steady. "What mark?" he asked softly. Her lips trembled. "I do not know. They never told me. Only that I was wrong, broken." The elder's staff struck the floor, sparks of energy crackling outward. She was cast aside to protect us all, to protect the galaxy. The human's jaw tightened. "Protect," he repeated, his tone sharp, "or control." The council stiffened, their silence answering louder than words. The truth was clear. They feared her, not because she was weak, but because she was something they could not control. The elder lifted his staff, light spilling across the floor. "Take them both," he commanded, his voice like thunder. Guards in dark armor stepped forward, weapons drawn, their faces grim. The crowd pulled back, fear rippling through the hall like waves. The girl trembled, pulling at the human's hand. "We must run," she whispered. But he did not move, his stance unbroken. "Running will not change the truth," he said, "but fighting for it might." Her chest tightened, torn between terror and the strange courage his words gave her. The guards closed in, their boots pounding the polished floor. The girl's eyes darted around, searching for an escape, but the hall was sealed, every exit blocked. Her breath grew shallow. The walls felt like they were closing in. The human shifted, placing himself between her and the soldiers, his body a shield. "You cannot stand against us all," one guard growled, raising his weapon. The human's lips curved into a faint smile. "Maybe not, but I will not step aside." The girl's hand tightened around his, her fear burning into something sharper. For the first time, she wanted to fight too. The elder sneered, his staff glowing brighter. "You think your defiance will matter, human, but you do not understand. Her very existence is a danger. She is the prophecy we swore to bury." The hall shivered with the weight of his words. The crowd murmured, some fearful, some curious, some daring to hope. The girl's chest ached, her heart pounding. She looked at the human, his face calm despite the storm around them. Her voice cracked. "If I am truly cursed, if my life is a danger, then why stay beside me?" His answer was simple, steady. "Because I do not see a curse, I see someone who deserves a chance." Tears stung her eyes, but before she could speak, the guards lunged. The human moved fast, faster than she had ever seen, pulling her behind him. The clash rang through the hall, metal against metal, shouts rising. The crowd screamed, scattering toward the walls. The girl stumbled, her body weak and used to such chaos. But the human never let her hand slip free, guiding her through the storm of blades and fists. Every strike he deflected, every step he took, was to protect her. And still, the elder's staff glowed brighter, the air trembling with power. "You cannot hide from fate," the elder roared, his staff lifting high. The light burned like fire, ready to strike. The girl cried out, terror flooding her veins, but then something strange happened. Her skin glowed faintly, a shimmer of light wrapping around her hand where the human held it. Gasps erupted. The council's faces twisted in shock. The prophecy was awakening, not in destruction, but in unity. The girl's trembling form stood taller, her eyes glowing faintly, her voice breaking through the noise. "I'm not your curse," she shouted. "I am your future." The hall froze. The guards hesitated. The light from the elder's staff faltered, and the human smiled, as if he had known all along. The girl's fear melted into fire, and for the first time, she did not feel abandoned. She felt chosen. The hall trembled as the glow from her hand spread like ripples through water. The crowd stared in shock. The council stood frozen, and the guards hesitated, unsure if they should strike or kneel. For the first time in her life, the abandoned girl was not invisible. She was the center, the prophecy alive before their eyes. The elder snarled, lifting his staff again. "Do not be fooled," he roared. "This is no miracle. This is danger." But his voice cracked with something he could not hide. Fear? The human soldier stepped forward, his body still shielding her, his voice calm but firm. "Danger only exists because you created it," he said. "You feared her, so you tried to bury her. Now she stands here with me." The elder's eyes blazed, and with a violent motion, he slammed his staff against the floor. The polished ground cracked, sending a shockwave that threw dancers and nobles to their knees. The girl stumbled, nearly falling, but the human caught her, his grip steady. Around them, the guards regained their courage, their blades raised, their eyes cold with duty. "Take them," the elder commanded, his voice heavy with rage. The guards surged forward, and the hall erupted into chaos. Humans shouted, some drawing their weapons in defense of their comrade, others pulling back in fear of breaking fragile peace. The alien nobles screamed, scattering like leaves in a storm. The human soldier pulled her close, whispering quickly, "We cannot fight them all. We need to move now." Her heart raced, her feet felt heavy, but she nodded, trusting him. They darted toward the nearest archway, weaving through the panicked crowd. Blades flashed behind them. The sound of boots thundered in pursuit. The girl's lungs burned, her legs weak from years of neglect, but the soldier never let her falter. Every time she stumbled, his hand tightened, pulling her forward. Every time she wanted to stop, his voice urged her on. "One more step. Don't give up." They burst into a long corridor, the golden glow of the hall fading behind them. The walls here were colder, harsher, lined with pipes and flickering lights. It felt like the shadows she had once called home, but now she was not alone in them. The echo of the guards' boots grew closer, shouts filling the air. "Seal the exits," one guard yelled. Doors slammed shut across the corridor, locking like jaws. The soldier cursed under his breath, scanning for another path. He spotted a maintenance shaft above, narrow but open. He lifted her without hesitation, pushing her toward it. Her hand shook as she gripped the edge, her strength failing. "I can't," she gasped. "I'm too weak." "You can," he said, his voice sharp but full of belief, "because I'm right here." With trembling arms, she pulled herself up, the human climbing after her. Shouts filled the corridor below as guards stormed in, their blades flashing in the dim light. The soldier yanked the hatch shut, sealing them in the narrow shaft. The air was tight, hot, filled with the hum of machines, but it was safety for now. They crawled through the darkness, their breaths echoing. The girl's voice shook. They will never stop hunting us. Then we will keep moving, the soldier replied, his tone steady. She turned her head slightly, her glowing eyes catching his in the dark. Why risk everything for me? She whispered. Because no one deserves to be abandoned, he said again, as if it were the simplest truth in the galaxy. The words struck deep, warming the cold places in her heart. For years she had lived believing she was cursed, worthless, forgotten. Now, in the dark crawl of a maintenance shaft, she felt more alive than she ever had in the golden halls of her people. Behind them, the clang of metal echoed. The guards were prying the hatch open. "They've found us," she said, fear rising again. The soldier moved faster, guiding her toward a vent ahead. They burst out onto another level of the station, this one abandoned and broken. The air smelled of rust and dust, shadows pooling in every corner. "This is where I used to hide," she whispered, her voice distant. He looked around, the broken walls, the flickering lights, the silence of forgotten halls. "It looks like a grave," he said quietly. "It was," she admitted, "but now it feels different because you are here." Before he could answer, the pounding of boots echoed again. The guards had tracked them, their lights cutting through the dark. The soldier gripped her hand tighter, pulling her into the maze of shadows. Their chase was only beginning. The girl's heart thundered, not just with fear, but with something fierce. She was no longer running just to survive. She was running with someone who believed in her, and that belief made every step feel stronger. Behind them, the elder's voice echoed through the speakers of the station, cold and furious. "You cannot run forever. Abandon one. Prophecy will not save you, and no human can shield you from fate." But the girl looked at the soldier beside her, and for the first time, she dared to whisper back, "Maybe fate is not theirs to decide." The abandoned halls stretched on, filled with broken lights and echoes of the past. Every step the human and the alien girl took seemed heavier, weighed down by the hunt that followed them. The station itself felt alive, metal groaning, vents sighing, as if the old walls remembered the secrets of her exile. And now, those secrets were chasing them with the force of an entire council. The human kept her close, his body tense, his ears sharp to every sound. He had faced battles before, but this was different. This was not just survival, it was a stand. The girl's hand trembled in his, but she no longer dragged her feet. Fear was still there, yes, but beneath it burned a fire she had never known she carried. Ahead, the corridor opened into an ancient chamber, one long forgotten by the shining nobles above. The walls were carved with strange symbols, older than her people. In the center stood a broken dais, and above it, a circular window revealed the endless stars. The girl froze, her eyes widening. "I know this place," she whispered. The human frowned. "What is it?" Her voice shook. "This is where they cast me out, where the council declared I was cursed. They left me here with nothing, no family, no name." Her chest ached as memories flooded back. The cold floor beneath her knees, the cruel eyes of the elders, the echo of the word abandoned. Tears threatened, but she blinked them away, clinging to the soldier's hand as if it was the only anchor left. Before he could answer, the heavy sound of boots echoed again. The guards had found them, their lights cutting through the dark like blades. And behind them came the council elders, their staffs glowing with power. The elder with the silver staff raised his hand, and the guards halted, creating a wall of steel around the chamber. The girl's heart sank, her breath shallow. There was no path left to run, nowhere to hide. The elder's voice boomed. "You cannot escape your fate. Abandon one. You will return to exile, and the human who defied us will pay the price." His eyes burned with fury as he turned to the soldier. "Release her, and we will let you live. Refuse, and you will share her doom." The chamber grew silent, the weight of the choice heavy in the air. The girl's throat tightened, her eyes turning to the human. "Do not listen," she whispered, tears breaking free. Leave me, please. If you stay, they will destroy you. Her voice cracked as she pulled at his hand, trying to free him, trying to save him the way no one had saved her. But the human did not let go. His grip only tightened, steady and unshakable. He looked at her, his eyes calm, his voice steady as stone. I will not abandon you. Not now, not ever. The council erupted in outrage, their staffs striking the floor, the chamber trembling with waves of energy. Then you have chosen exile and death, the elder hissed. The guards raised their weapons, the air thick with threat. But the soldier stepped in front of the girl, his stance like an unmovable wall. Her tears spilled freely now, her heart breaking with both fear and something brighter. All her life, she had begged for someone to see her, to stand for her, and here he was, a human who had no reason to care, no blood tie, no duty, only a choice he made freely, to stand with her against the galaxy itself. The elder's staff glowed brighter, energy swirling like a storm. Your defiance means nothing, he roared. Prophecy will not save you. Love will not save you. The girl gasped at the word, her heart stuttering. Love. Was that what this was, this fire in her chest, this unshakable bond? She stepped forward, her hand still in his, her voice shaking but louder than it had ever been. Then let it be love that saves us, she cried. The chamber trembled, the symbols on the wall pulsed faintly, as if awakened by her words. The elders recoiled, fear flashing in their eyes. The human squeezed her hand, his voice strong. They fear you because you are hope, not curse. She turned to him, her lips trembling. But hope always costs something. His gaze softened. Then let it cost me. I will pay it. Her tears fell faster, not of fear now, but of something fierce and bright. The guards stepped closer, their blades ready. The elder lifted his staff high, the light blinding. The final strike was coming, the judgment ready to fall. And in that moment, the human and the alien girl stood together, hand in hand, choosing defiance over surrender. She closed her eyes, whispering through trembling lips, If this is the end, at least I am not alone. The soldier's voice answered, steady and unbroken. It is not the end, it is the beginning. The chamber erupted with light, the prophecy breathing through stone and stars. And the council, for the first time, knew fear. The chamber blazed with light, brighter than any star through the cracked window above. The elders staggered back, their staffs shaking in their hands, their power suddenly fragile in the storm that filled the room. The walls pulsed with the ancient symbols, glowing in rhythm with the girl's heartbeat. For the first time, she did not feel weak, she did not feel cursed, she felt alive. The human held her hand, steady, firm, unbroken even as the light swirled around them. Together they stood at the center of prophecy, the abandoned one and the stranger who dared to care. The elder roared, his voice echoing with desperation. Stop this before the stars themselves burn. But his words held no weight now, no power, only fear. The guards, once loyal, now hesitated. Their blades wavered as they looked at the glowing girl, at the human who refused to yield. Whispers rippled through their ranks. What if the council lied, one muttered. What if she's not a curse, but a savior? Another whispered. The girl lifted her chin, her voice clear though her body trembled. All my life you told me I was nothing. You left me to die, but still I lived, still I hoped, and now I will not hide. Her words struck like lightning, cutting through the chamber. The elders' faces twisted, their control slipping. The human stepped forward, guiding her with him. And then, in the middle of that storm, he did something no one expected. He placed his hand at her back, bowed slightly, and whispered, Dance with me, one more time. Her breath caught, her heart racing. Even here, at the edge of destruction, he offered her a choice. Not an order, not a command, but a chance. She nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. Yes, she whispered, her voice breaking but full of strength. The music was gone, yet the rhythm was alive in their steps. They moved together across the cracked floor, the glow of prophecy swirling around them. Every turn, every step defied the chains of the council. Every movement declared that hope could not be killed. The crowd that had followed the chase now filled the edges of the chamber. Humans and aliens alike watched, their fear turning into awe. And then, slowly, one pair after another stepped forward. A human officer taking the hand of an alien worker, a young alien offering a bow to a human medic. The dance spread, unstoppable, a wildfire of unity born from defiance. The elders shouted, their staffs striking the floor, but no power came. Their magic was fading, drowned by the will of the people. The guards lowered their weapons, some joining the dance, others dropping their blades. The balance of the station shifted, forever changed. The girl spun under the human's hand, her cloak falling free. Her glowing eyes met the crowd, no longer ashamed, no longer hiding. She was not the abandoned one anymore. She was the symbol of something greater. And with each step, the prophecy became truth. The elder with the silver staff fell to his knees, his voice breaking. This cannot be. The stars promised ruin. The girl looked at him, her voice steady. No, the stars promise change, and changes come. The human smiled faintly, his hand never letting go of hers. You are not alone anymore, he whispered. She smiled back, tears streaming, but her steps strong. I never will be again. The chamber filled with light as the dance reached its peak. The walls shook, the cymbals blazed, and the stars beyond the window seemed to lean closer. What began as a single hand offered in kindness became a storm that broke chains. The prophecy was no longer a curse, it was a promise fulfilled. When the light faded, silence fell. The elders were gone, their power broken, their counsel shattered. In their place stood the people, no longer divided, no longer blind. And at the center, the girl and the humans stood hand in hand, their hearts steady, their bond unbroken. The girl looked out at the crowd, at the humans and aliens standing together. Her voice carried softly, but every soul heard it. From this day, no one will be abandoned. The chamber erupted with cheers, tears, and laughter. The human squeezed her hand gently, leaning close. This is only the beginning, he said. She nodded, her heart light, her eyes shining with new fire. Yes, she whispered, the beginning of us all. And so, in the place where she had once been cast aside, in the same chamber where she was told she was nothing, the abandoned girl became the center of a new story. A story that began with a human offering his hand and ended with a dance that changed the stars.